Antonio Gibson is one of the last running backs you can draft who has the potential to finish the year as a top 5 running back. So in the second half of last season, Antonio Gibson clearly took over the lead back role in the Washington football team backfield. And he will come into the offseason as the clear RB1 on this team. So let's take a look at the 9 games in 2020 that he had at least 10 carries and see what type of player we can expect this year. So like I said, in 9 games with a minimum of 10 rush attempts, he had an average of 17.7 touches per game. That would have ranked 16th among all running backs and would have tied him with Aaron Jones. He caught 2.7 receptions per game. That would have been 23rd among running backs. He had a total of 90.4 scrimmage yards per game. That would have been 13th best among all running backs. And a touchdown rate of exactly 1 per game. That would have been the 6th best mark among all running backs. And 4.8 yards per carry. That would have ranked 16th. And altogether 16.4 half PPR points per game. And that would have come in as running back 7 all of last season. Now, Gibson clearly has top 10 upside based on these numbers, and while 17 touches per game isn't a low number, it's still possible that that number goes up. And if it does, he could end up in the top 5 running backs by the end of the year. However, that touchdown rate that was the 6th best among all running backs, that's a stat I'm not so sure he's going to be able to repeat. In most of the 9 games that we looked at, he was playing with Alex Smith, who had some of the worst passing stats in the league last year. Alex Smith was only throwing 0.8 touchdowns per game in 2020, and Ron Rivera almost strictly called run plays when they were in goal-to-go situations. So now that Ryan Fitzpatrick comes in to replace him at quarterback, things might change. We know Fitzpatrick is not afraid to run it into the end zone, even if it means taking a nasty hit on the way there. So he might vulture a couple touchdowns from Antonio Gibson, and while that's not something that's going to happen every game, it's a factor to consider, and it makes it more likely than not that Antonio Gibson doesn't finish the season with 15 plus touchdowns on the year. His floor, however, is still firmly within the top 15 running backs, and I think that he has a ceiling just as high as players like Saquon Barkley, Ezekiel Elliott, and Joe Mixon. His current ADP is running back 12, going 19th overall, and I think that's tremendous value at the end of the second round. I'm willing to draft him as high as 13th, honestly, the first pick of the second round. But keep in mind, the only receivers I have ranked as first-round picks are Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill. So I'm not someone who wants to draft a wide receiver early. He is one of the last running backs I would consider drafting as my RB1. But if you can take him in the second round as your RB2, I strongly suggest it. That'll position you very, very nicely for the rest of your draft, and running back is one of the positions whose depth dries out the fastest. So draft Antonio Gibson in the second round if you can.